All right, welcome everybody. We got a lot to get into today. I'm gonna cover just about everything. Start with the Buckeyes, talk some Browns, Cavs draft, and just a little bit about the Indians. So let's do this. Buckeye banter. Welcome to Buckeye Banter, Sports in the OH. Mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Yeah. All right. So Buckeyes, big game. This is probably right now the game of the year for us. We got to show up and we got to really impress. And I think that this game has got two major factors for me that we're going to need to be on the lookout for. How can actually edit three? We're going to go with three. How can Indiana beat Ohio State? Because let's face it, on paper, Ohio State should win. They're a three-touchdown favorite. Not really a betting person, but I see what the people are talking about, and that's what they're saying. It's a three-touchdown favorite. To me, I don't think we're going to win by three touchdowns, but we might because if we put it all together, we could easily beat them by more than that. But let me tell you the one thing that I've talked to friends about for years and years that always happens in games like this. You're talking about Indianapolis and Columbus, a couple hours apart. There's a lot of young men playing football in Indiana and in places like that. Down in Cincinnati for the Bearcats. Over in Miami of Ohio, that is. Um, Smaller schools all around Ohio. Over in Pittsburgh, Penn State. Not so much, but a little bit. Even Penn State. Um, Smaller schools throughout Michigan. You got a lot of guys that really wanted to play for Ohio State, and they just during their high school career they didn't impress enough. But they get to a school like Indiana and happy to have them, love to offer them a scholarship, and now they get a chance to play Ohio State. And let me tell you what those kids do. They show up and they're motivated, big time motivated. So what happens? Typically, that motivation will be enough to make a difference for a quarter or two. Um, so don't be surprised if this game starts off. We've seen this before when we're playing against those teams like Cincinnati and Miami and other Ohio schools. That first quarter can sometimes be feisty. Other team surprises us, play a lot better than we think they could have. Um, we got to survive that. So that's point one. Don't take them for granted, and don't underestimate the punch of the guy who wished he could have played for Ohio State. There's a lot of guys out there in this playing for high school football right now in Ohio who wish they could play for Ohio State, but aren't going to get a scholarship and offer. They're not going to get an offer. And when they go to that other school, if they ever get the chance to play Ohio State, don't think that they won't want to show that they could have been good enough. That's just in our nature as competitors. So, point two. Um, I've talked about it a bunch. I haven't seen the consistency that I want to see out of this offensive line. Um, Indiana blitzes a lot. Not from the same place. They mix it up well, but they also are able to back it up when they do it. They tend to create some turnovers. So this line's going to have to defend and figure out how to play together. There's a number of new guys on that front. So as I read on the Athletic, if you guys don't subscribe to the Athletic, I can't recommend it high enough. It's worth the money. It's to me it's worth more than subscribing to ESPN for sure. The quality of the reporting there to me is just worth it. So on the Athletic, they were talking about this, and I think one of the older offensive lineman said, for the young guys, they're missing out on those walkover games that we usually get at the beginning of the season. And in those games is when those younger players usually get a chance to kind of get a feel for things and get used to playing together. And as a former offensive lineman, not one who played at any level near Ohio State, not even close, but as someone who understands a little bit about that position, you depend a lot on being able to count on the guy next to you, knowing what he's going to do and kind of how he does it, and being able to all kind of have a sense of each other. And so without that, it does complicate things. So we're going to see today how this line has gelled. Hopefully, instead of missing out on that opportunity to have some of that experience last week, that this time in practice will have benefited them in a different way. But I think that experience in another game where they probably would have controlled the game pretty well last week would have been better for them. I think that's what I'd said last week as well when we talked about the fact they're missing this game. Third point, the other area that I've mentioned a little bit of concern about it is the depth in the defensive backfield. Our D line and linebackers have been really solid at the top of the group in the backfield, the defensive backfield. We've got a couple of really good guys, and I think overall the quality is there. But again, it's an experience issue. And this Indiana team has got a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball. They've got a really talented tight end, a couple really talented wide receivers, and a pretty talented quarterback. They're going to test us. You better believe early they're going to test those DBs. So we're going to see what happens. But those are the three things I think we got to watch out for. I still think we win. I think we win handily, barring that we make some big mistakes. If we don't have the big costly turnovers or some big crazy silly penalties, I think that we win by 14. I'm going to say 45-31. No, we're not going to give up 31 points. 45-28. 45-20. No. We're going to win by more. I feel pretty confident about this. Edit all of those. We're going to say 45-24. That's my final prediction. So let's move on to the Browns. Browns news is not pretty right now. Sadly, we're looking at Myles Garrett being out. We're looking at Andy Jankovic being out. We'll see if they activate Johnny Stanton off the practice squad to give us a fullback or not. That'll tell us a lot about how they're planning on lining up. We're going to need somebody else to step up out there on the defensive end side just to give us that rush. Olivia Vernon has been such a disappointment in his time with us, so we'll see if he can maybe step up today against Philly. Tomorrow, I should say, against Philly. We should still be able to beat Philadelphia, but man, it hurts to lose him. And last year when we didn't have Myles Garrett out there, this team looked pretty poor. So I'm hoping that having Chubb and Kareem Hunt healthy will give us enough of an offense to make up for that lack, because there is at least some other pieces out there that are helping out, including Ronnie Harrison, who has been now playing almost all the time and is really starting to fill that role at a much higher level than what we were getting from that position at safety. So we'll see about that. We've also got to figure out, hopefully Cody Parkey and Jack Conklin both get activated off of the COVID reserve list. If they continue to not test positive, that is what will happen. So hopefully we'll get both of them back. Hubbard, I'm not sure what his status is. I think he's going to be activated as well off the reserve list in time, but we'll see. There's not a lot of offensive line depth on the practice squad, so I'm not sure what will happen there, but we'll see. Hopefully that he gets back in time for this game. Yeah. So that's it for that. I'm gonna predict that we do win. I don't think we're gonna score as much as maybe we had been. I'll say 28-21. Ohio 28-21 Browns. So let's talk about the Cavs. Cavs draft real quickly. I love it. I think the Isaac Okoro pick was a perfect fit for them. The only thing that would have been better for me is if they would have been able to trade down a little bit and still get Okoro. But it sounds like everybody was trying to trade down. And guess what happens when everybody is trying to trade down? Everybody below you doesn't want to give you much to do it. And so in the end, I think the Cavs decided we'll stay put. We'll get the guy we want and go from here. I think Okoro fits both a positional need as well as an attributes need, and so I think he's going to be good. Bruce Pearl knows a little bit about basketball. He coached him there at Auburn and thinks the world of him. Thinks he's going to be a really good player. Hard worker, which I like to see that aspect in these guys. So yeah, we'll see what happens with Isaac Okoro, but I think he's a good fit, good pick, a lot of potential there. So I personally like it. Um, heard rumors that the Cavs were discussing a deal to swap basically Drummond for Hayward. Um, I personally would do that. But now I think Hayward opted out, so that's probably not going to be a deal. Um, Surprisingly, he opted out. I mean, the guy was going to make 31 million or 34 million, something like that. I don't think anyone's going to pay him anywhere near that. Um, Certainly, the Cavs won't pay him that now. They would have paid his contract instead of Drummond's, I think. We'll see what happens now with Drummond. Yeah. So, what are the Cavs going to do? I'm not sure next what the Cavs are going to do. We'll get into that a little more next week on some Cavs predictions for this offseason. All right, Indians. Just quickly, the Indians. Basically, the big news right now is the Rule 5 draft. So the Indians had to um, settle on their 40-man roster. Again, I talked about the Rule 5 draft and kind of what that looks like in the Indians preview episode. So if you want to see that, I'll put it over here. You can click on the Indians preview video and get a better explanation of the Rule 5 draft and what it is. But yeah, that Rule 5 draft basically had to be your 40-man roster are the only players in your entire organization who have been around, I believe, for at least 5 years, who are not protected. So, who are protected, I'm sorry. So, we had to protect 40 players. And they added 5 players to that list. We'll just run through them real quick. The roster otherwise stayed the same. So, the no brainer was Nolan Jones. Also, they included Gabriel Arias, who they picked up in the Clevenger trade, which, by the way, is now that Clevenger is hurt. Sorry to hear that for him, but it's looking like a better deal for us than it even was looking at the time. Ernie Clement, they also added to the 40-man. Carlos Vargas and Eli Morgan. Vargas and Morgan are both right-handed pitchers, and Ernie Clement is a shortstop. So, short version, just so you understand a little bit about what's going on with that. If they are selected, and if a player was not protected and a team selects them in the Rule 5 draft, they get the rights to that player, but they only retain those rights as long as they maintain them on their major league roster for the entire upcoming season. So these are guys who they felt had a lot of potential, and maybe someone would be willing to call them up and put them on their roster in order to steal them away from the tribe organization, and they didn't want to risk losing those rights. So that's kind of what's happening with the tribe this week. So we haven't yet had to, and that's what I think is coming up next, is decide on who we are going to offer arbitration to or not. I'm still of the opinion that Naquin will not get offered arbitration, and I think personally that maybe Delino DeShields will not as well, but we'll see what happens. Some of that's going to depend on trade possibilities and what they're looking at with other teams. If one of those guys maybe somehow draws a little bit of attention from someone, DeShields seems like a more likely candidate too. I don't think anyone's going to give up anything for Tyler Naquin at this point. He's getting older. He doesn't have, I think he just has one more year of arbitration. So not a lot of value in that. Anyways, we'll see what happens in the coming weeks. Again, I'm going to keep doing some more off-season updates for both Indians and the Cavs. So in this coming week or two, you'll see another video on each of those. So yeah, that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Really appreciate any help you can have getting the word out, getting other people to catch on to the Buckeye banter, and look forward to enjoying this weekend of football from the Buckeyes and the Browns. So go Bucks, go Browns, and we'll see you on the flip side.